collect stories and circulate life-changing wisdom. I'm your host, Asher, and my co-host today is Queen Lav. Our guest today is Lani and Jeff, and today we get to speak around the theme of needs. What you need to think, do, or feel that might not be happening in your life. And Lani gonna share some stuff, Jeff gonna share some stuff, and so does Queen Lav. And we just have a conversation with you guys around some of the stuff that are making a difference in our own life. So I'm gonna start with you, Lani, if you don't mind
All right.
introducing yourself to us, where you're hailing from, or you adding value to the world, who you being a hero to, and what you specialize in.
Wow. So I am Lani Almanza. I'm from Hawaii. Live in Hawaii, born and raised in Hawaii. When you say be a hero to, it's like, well, I'm the mother of four, grandmother of six.
Ooh.
So I hope that I'm a hero to them. And what I specialize in is wellness. And that came from a lifelong journey of understanding that I've been a caregiver through a very challenging caregiving journey with my youngest son who passed away from brain cancer 18 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Subsequently caring for my parents who my father had Parkinson's, my mother had Alzheimer's, and really discovering, learning, and resourcing the lessons of self-care that I needed to survive and thrive through all of that.
Hmm. Well, sorry to hear about your son, and
Well, he's my hero. And
he's your hero. There you
yeah,
go.
and he is the sort of the inspiration of how I hope to leave my legacy. So I last year was able to finally publish a book that I have had in my bucket list for over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Under a Full Moon and a Guiding Star.
Oh, nice.
And it sort of is a personal journey of that, that caregiving and wellness and the lessons that I've learned and hope to share with the world.
Thank you so much, Lonnie, and congratulations on your book.
Thanks.
Jeff, who you being a hero to? How you adding value to the world? What you specialize in, brother?
I'm working on being a hero.
Yeah.
My name's Jeff Calez. I'm from Toronto originally. I'm living in Mexico near Cancun now. My wife and I moved here about 6 months ago. We were ready for an adventure. We got tired of suburban life, let's say.
Yeah.
And it was time for some adventure and it felt like life had been on pause for a while. So we wanted to get out and live our lives. We kind of came here. I got to this point because I went through a miserable divorce about a little over 10 years ago.
Hmm.
And I think like everybody kind of go through some traumatic times in your 30s, and that was mine. But I want what I'm doing now is coaching men through divorces, and I want them to, I just want to get that message out there that it is possible to live a better life. You go through this miserable time and you're at a real low in your life. And I want people to know that you can get out of that and actually do better. You can make a much better life post-divorce.
Yeah. Well, that
Wow.
hits home because my middle son is currently going through a divorce, so I might
Mm.
hook him up with you.
I'm sorry to hear that. Just let him, be
Yeah,
the support for him.
yeah.
Just be there for him. That's what he needs right now. If you haven't been through it, it's hard to understand exactly what he's going through, but just be there for him.
Mm.
I love what you both do, but I want to start with Jeff a little bit because, as women, it's so easy for us to get together and talk and use
Yeah.
our best friends as therapists, and our best friends will help us to go through tough times. But man, how is that easy for guys to do that? Because as I know, you guys are usually brought up with toughen up, don't cry, don't show emotion. So
Yeah.
the general line, right? So how do you deal with this when you coach your clients?
How do I deal with it? That's kind of a broad subject, but each one is individual. I can talk about myself. I think the challenge is to find out what there's a lesson in any difficulty. And if you can find what the lesson is, and I don't mean to be toxically positive, that's not what I'm going for here. You're going to have challenge, you're going to have support. Look for the support in the challenge. And if you can get to that point, you're going to do much better than if you're constantly staring at that, what the challenge is and being in that trough. But if you can look up and see, this challenge is teaching me something, that's a much better perspective to have. So yeah, as men, we are not brought up to handle emotions, and divorce is just about the most emotional thing you can go through. Maybe next to the death of a loved one. But if you can, not resist those feelings, not resist those emotions, become aware of what they're telling you, there is a great lesson in there for you.
Yeah. Well, and Jeff, I think that there's a correlation that any loss, whether it's, physical transitions or loss of a relationship, there is that grief process that as Westerners, we don't really learn how to do that well.
No.
And so, there's all kinds of sort of those toxically positive things that people will say that, time will heal and, those kind of things. But really looking at that divorce in that grief perspective, sometimes I have found can help people gain a little bit of perspective on how to move forward.
Absolutely. And Western society doesn't really have those rituals for handling those emotions. Like other cultures tend to have, psychedelics. They have, dancing. They have. I was in a Temezcal a few weeks ago, which is a Maya sweat lodge, and after I came out of it, I felt angry, but it helps to work those emotions out, and that's the whole point of it. Is all these other cultures have something, but Western society has nothing. They've got, here, take these drugs,
or go see a psychologist
for the next 20 years.
It's like,
yeah.
I think we need more people that are doing the interpersonal connection with people to help them tap into those resources that they might not know are there.
100%.
So practically you encourage them to release the build up energy, either that's frustration or anger or sadness. You should release it instead of just put it on a shelf and ignore it for the next 20 years, as you said.
Don't push it down. That's the worst thing you can do. Emotions are there to guide us. Some of the guys I work with don't even know they have emotions, or they know they have anger, and that's about it.
Wow.
And just even guiding them to know that emotions are inside the body and they can feel them, and there's natural ways for the emotions to get released. That's a big step. And then as you go through the divorce, you're going to feel all kinds of emotions. You're going to feel anger. You're going to feel depression. You're going to feel sadness. You're going to go through those stages of grief, and it's going to pummel you. And it's important to feel it.
Wow.
I keep coming back to this one quote. It says, the longest journey man has to travel is 18 inches from your head to your heart. And oftentimes for men, it's you're right. Because I went through divorce recently too, and it's been challenging. First I was going back to my natural state where, I've been in and out of a lot of relationship. And then I was like, oh, this is another one I can just, just get through. Just keep getting busy and just keep moving, right? But then I had some time to sit back, and as I was starting the process, I was like, yeah, there's some stuff that's showing up. And you're right. A lot of men doesn't know the labels for the emotion they feel. we only know a few labels, right? Like you said, only a few labels, but there's so much labels that we can find to kind of describe what we're feeling, but we don't have those labels.
I don't know the labels. I agree with you. Yeah, there are a lot of labels. I don't know it's necessary to label all of them.
Mm.
But just and sometimes we label it as anxiety or depression or whatever it is, and you know we might change that definition. So I think the labels are less important. But when I was going through it, when I was at my worst, I was playing squash 3 times a week. And I would just imagine my ex's face on the squash ball, and I would hammer the crap out of the ball. And that just felt so good just to take, and I didn't realize what I was doing, but I was releasing those emotions that are stored in the body and just hammering the wall. So the first thing I always suggest is get out of your head, get off the couch and do something that gets you into the moment. So for me, at the time it was squash. Now I like boxing more, and just try to get out of the present moment when you're boxing, because you're just going to get your butt kicked. You're going to get punched in the face really quick. You have to be present. And that takes you out of that fear of the future and depression over the past.
Yeah. And I think, you know, with where I go with wellness, all of that plays into that, is being present in the moment, finding the self-care in the present moment. And I think a lot of times people think that self-care means I have to spend a lot of time somewhere. You can find it in small moments every day, and building your habits there seems to be more successful than trying to take big leaps towards, you know, an end result.
I like that.
So how do you help your clients, both of you, to be present? So Jeff, I know you said through sport, through physical exercise. Are there any other tools that you use to help them be present and not suffer so much in the past and in a scary future?
Yeah. Sports and just getting into the present moment is the first step. I have techniques that help you release energy. Emotions are just energy we're storing in the body. So if you can, I can guide you through releasing and actually finding wisdom in those emotions. We hold on to emotions because we don't see the wisdom in it. But as soon as you see the wisdom in it, you can let it go, and you absorb that wisdom. You just kind of you can use that wisdom in the future. And then later on, and this isn't for everybody, and this is something only recent for me in the last year or two, is I've gotten into meditation. And I lead a meditation. It's mostly men. Actually, I don't think I've ever had a woman on it. So Sunday mornings I do a guided meditation. And the idea there is the type of meditation I do is just allow everything to be, and there's natural processes to handle what you're feeling and what you're thinking. You're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions. Think of yourself as the sky, and emotions are clouds, and thoughts are clouds. They'll pass, and it's just important to hold that space, to be yourself, to be the sky. And if you can get to that place, even if the sky is covered in clouds, you start looking for those little cracks.
Yeah.
And you just start to separate yourself from those thoughts and emotions.
Yeah, that's one of the places where I try to guide people. And for me, it was through breath work, learning breath work through some good yoga friends, and the power of your breath in helping to release emotions, to bring you into the present moment. So there's so many different techniques of breath work. What I try to focus on in the work that I do is providing people with simple techniques, again, that you can start to employ in the moments in your day that you can build on. And so one of my favorites it's called box breathing, or the 4 square breathing. And it really helps you just reset all of the energy in your body. And so I find myself doing that several times a day, some days more than others. But just teaching people the power of their breath, and especially the work that I do with caregivers, is when the tensions start to build up and the emotions start to build up, step outside, somewhere quiet, find your place where you can just take a few minutes. Doesn't take more than 5 minutes to do 3 deep breaths. And you'll find yourself present in the moment, re-energized, refocused, have more clarity, and can get back to what you need to do.
Lani, box breathing puts me right to sleep. It's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah. There's others that, really can charge you up. So, any of the Kriya breathing techniques, for me, really, that's like, if I really want to get into a meditative state, that's where I go. Yeah.
You guys
I
are
have
meant
to
to
be
meet.
careful. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was saying Lani and Jeff, you guys were meant to meet. This is I love this. You guys are speaking the same language right now.
We are.
Same language.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Well,
Lav.
I think it's something that people don't realize what they need. We're often told what we should be doing, but what we really need is those simple moments of self-care to build a foundation to meet our day. Whatever it entails, whether it's trauma, stress, anxiety, or just to meet your day with joy and happiness. If you can, start your morning with for me, it's a morning meditation, a simple guided meditation to just get me present and uplifted, focus on the gratitude I have. Gratitude's a big thing for me. That was one of the things where, coming out of my caregiving journey with my son, there was a lot of things to not be grateful for. And so I had to really focus on what I was grateful for, and narrowed it down to, like, if I could just come up with 3 things for the day, whether it's the beginning or the end of the day, that set me in a pattern for seeing more gratitude and receiving more abundance.
Yeah, definitely. It's a way of definitely a way of being. If you train yourself to search for the positivity and the gratitude and the things that you're happy for and grateful, then you'll see them more and more and more often. Although, dang, it's very, very hard at the beginning, right? When you're in the very dark place.
Yeah, people like, I don't know, I have no idea where to start doing a gratitude journal, or even what I would put there. And sometimes I say, it might sound trite or silly, but I say, just start with the alphabet, with ABC, and whatever word comes to mind that starts with the letter A. And even if it's just apple, it can trigger, okay, that sounds silly, but I do like green apples. And why do I like green apples? Because I remember using them to make apple crisp with my mom and my grandma. So it can start to trigger those moments of gratitude that you may not know are there.
Yeah, and I do gratitude as well. Sometimes I'll have clients list just 10 things, and I know Lani, you said 3, but I push them for 10.
Yeah, good.
And it can just be as simple as, I'm breathing, I'm not sick, I'm awake, my kids are in the next room. Whatever it is, just find 10 things that you're grateful for. I've got food for the day, whatever it is.
And sometimes it's important to, even those small things, to recognize sometimes how privileged we are in comparison to others. So, just the fact that you might have food in your house, or a house to live in, in these times, that's a big privilege over some people. And so to recognize that even while you're in the midst of depression or despair, there are things to be grateful for that other people don't have, some of those basic necessities of life.
And it's, I wanted to make a point about, when you're in that despair, just start doing the little things. And I know it sounds so silly, And I thought that as well when I was in the trenches and in the depth. Just start doing the simple things, even like going for a walk every day. That was so helpful. And it's just,
Yeah.
I know it's so simple. It sounds like nothing, but we got a dog when I was going through the worst part of the divorce, and just that dog would get me out of bed in the morning because you got to tend to the dog.
Yeah.
And just going for that walk and having those, 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever it was, sometimes that keeps you sane.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I don't know if any of you are familiar with blue zones. That's one of the things they talk about is getting a dog is a way to get yourself having those moments of being outdoors, exercising. And like you said, even if it's only for 10 minutes, 10-minute intervals actually provide more benefits than if you spend an hour at the gym doing weight training.
And you also have company, right? Not only that you have to wake up early morning because you have to let the dog out, you have to feed the dog, you also have company. So yeah, it makes it easier. What do you think, Asher? How did you approach your situation after your divorce? What kept you sane?
Writing, actually.
Writing.
I started because around that same time I started like writing my books and stuff. Because I know I didn't just have to process the divorce, but I was also killing off a career at the same time because I retired from the military. So I was saying bye-bye to that life. So
Wow.
I had two part of my two identity I had to kill off, right? And it took a lot to kill that off to rebirth, to reinvent myself again. And it would take a lot of work. And writing was one of the biggest things for me. That's why I'm still writing right now. I'm like, okay, I love this thing because now what was in my head that didn't make sense when I put it on paper, I started to see what it is and and it wasn't so scary when I could see it in words. But just feeling it in my head, feeling it in my body was just scary. So I started writing and writing and writing and just could process that stuff out. And I started forgiveness phase for myself to like, okay, you talk about that, Jeff, what is this thing trying to teach me? And it was showing me a lot of things that I ignored in my past, that the being in that situation brought that up, because I was always running. Like I'm in the military, I'm constantly doing. I'm always doing, moving. So I never do a lot of reflecting because I'm always busy. I always full up my schedule in the military. So after that time happens, I was like, okay, I can reflect on my life and go back. And I was like, so much stuff that happened in my past, and I was appreciating my past. I was lowering the value of it. But I started writing, I started increase the value of it now. I started to see how much I've done and what I've done that was great, that I didn't saw was great because of this major failure, so forth and so on. It was a lot of work, but it felt good after I write it out.
Yeah.
So that worked for me.
Yeah. That was, for me, journaling has always been a part of my life, and at some points increased in what I was writing about or the reflection that I was doing. And so I thought I had a lot of material when I started writing my book, but when I started working with my writing coach, and she really pushed me on some of those things, it really brought out more of those emotions that I didn't realize were there. Or like you said, valuing the things that I had accomplished in my life that I hadn't really given value to, or had been told maybe weren't of value. So yeah, writing is for me very therapeutic and meditative.
That's one of the things I suggest, because it gets you into the present moment. It's just going back to that point. But Asher, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there, because you had something that kept you in the present. Writing is meditative. And you recognize that there was something to learn about your situation, and you realize that you're always busy, and now you had this time to slow down, and that's like this whole mindset shift and whole almost a change of identity. So some people run away from that and they stay busy or stay in that old life, but good for you for embracing that change.
Yeah.
That must have been hard.
Oh yeah, it was very difficult. I mean, I've I've never processed that much emotion at one time, right? Because when you're busy, you don't feel it.
Yeah.
like you're doing something. But when you stop and you like had to let that thing sit in your body and then find a way to for it to exit, and it needs a way of exiting. You know, I could work out and
Mm.
stuff like that, but still some of that stuff has to find another way to exit. And some stuff gotta exit by words. You know, some
Mhm.
stuff had to come out. You have to speak it out. And without speaking it, some of that stuff out, it wouldn't leave. So I'm like, oh man, some of these things require me to speak out, for me to share with somebody else. And that was helpful, because then I call up some of my battles. I'm like, yo, this is what I'm feeling today, man. I'm like, yo, I don't know what's going on. We start talking, and after a while we start talking, to start making sense. You know, they start making sense. I'm like, okay, all right, cool. I'm not crazy. I'm not losing my mind, right? So that really helps, speaking out loud too.
I love it.
Yeah, even if you don't share your thoughts with the person that those thoughts are directed to, right? You still release that suffering
Yeah.
or
Oh,
whatever emotion is um, going hand in hand with that, with those words.
yeah. I found sometimes that the journaling, it doesn't have to be all rosy glasses and, positivity. Sometimes my journaling was definitely venting, and there might have been a lot of 4-letter words on the page. Well, very therapeutic, like I said. But again, if you keep that all bottled up inside, like Jeff was saying, your body does something with those emotions, with the chemical reactions that are happening. And so can be very toxic. And so you need to find ways to release that. And then that negative space, your mind wants to fill it really quickly, and it can fill it with more negative stuff. So you have to be sure that you are constantly looking to fill it with something positive. So gratitude, meditation, whatever, journaling, whatever it is, fill that negative space once you release.
Here's the gift that it has granted me. The gift I got from all of that experience is that I realized that when I'm in my feelings, I'm way more creative. Like when I'm having these emotions that are flowing through my system, I'm like no longer afraid of them, because I think the thing that we all fear the most is how we feel, how things make us feel. We're afraid of how things make us feel. And once I stop fearing it and I start getting my space, I'm like, well, man, I'm getting very creative. So I can write. I can write for a long time. I have so much ideas popping up, because now those emotions, I'm able to put them into words. And once I start doing that, I get very creative. And I start like, okay, all right, Ashley, you can start working with your feelings now. And I just kind of love that gift that he granted me. So now I try to find moments where I get back into my feelings and my emotion, so I can write more. Because when I'm in that space, I get really creative.
Yeah.
Brene Brown talks about vulnerability is the birthplace of creativity.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't get too vulnerable without going through emotions. So if you're creating anything, with maybe a few exceptions, you have to get into those emotions, and you have to be prepared to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Somebody could laugh at you for your writing, for your painting, for your speaking, whatever it is. You've got to be prepared for that. But for it to be true art, for it to be a true expression of who you are, it has to come from that genuine place.
Yeah.
And the closer, as you were saying, what was the saying? The 18 inches to your heart, that's the biggest journey.
The longest journey you gotta travel is 18
Yeah.
inches from head to your heart. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where creativity comes from, your heart. Or that's where true expression, vulnerability, and genuineness comes from, is your heart. If you're not living there. I used to be, and I'm saying this because my journey, what I'm grateful for, my divorce, was I used to be a really cerebral guy. I was in tech programming. Everything was logical. Everything was black and white. I didn't know what emotions were. And I pushed all those emotions down. Every once in a while, I would, somebody would hit something and I would tear up, and I didn't know why, and I didn't know what to do with it. But since then, I've been able to, because of that divorce, like, divorce is so emotional. You either learn to become either learn to emotionally self-regulate, or you're a puddle on the floor. So thank God I had that experience, because I got to master my emotions.
Mhm.
And I assume it's still a process, right? Because one,
Oh, yeah.
I like to think that one never really gets to master their emotions 100%, because if that's possible, then I'm failing miserably.
No, it's a lifelong journey, because
Yeah.
your experiences, every time you encounter something new, you're creating those new emotions and feelings. So if you're not feeling and you're not, you know, doing in that space, you're going to become stagnant, and that's not a good place to be. Like you won't be alive there very long.
No, agreed. Every new challenge you take on is going to bring up new emotions. So when I mean mastering emotions, I don't mean I don't feel anything. It doesn't mean I don't get angry, I don't get frustrated, depressed, whatever. I still do. It's just I have techniques and I have awareness to catch them before they explode.
Mm.
Yeah.
To me, that's what emotional mastery is.
Yeah.
I love
I
it.
think, yeah, sometimes it's just learning to acknowledge those feelings
Mhm.
that um that can make them dissipate. Just the acknowledgement of, oh, I'm feeling angry, and there's really no reason for me to be angry at this moment in time. It's just an emotion that was stirred, but once you acknowledge it, you free it to, you know, pass on, leave, and fill it with something more genuine and fortuitous.
So Lani, tell us about your retreats in Hawaii. I'm thinking you in Hawaii, there's no need for anybody to be angry and miserable and pissed off, because this is a beautiful island.
Well, you know, we're still part of the human race, and the human factor. So I really would like to be doing more retreats. Right now, they've been condensed to more workshops,
Mhm.
sort of 1 day workshops, and that was sort of the result of COVID. I had big plans when I retired in 2020 to do, like, you know, 3 day retreats, and all of that got put way on the back burner. But I think the universe did that because it had other plans for me. It brought me into a relationship or partnership with a nonprofit that's caring for caregivers, and bringing resources to them to understand how they can build in that self-care, which they often overlook. It also brought me to networking with other people and being on podcasts like this. It brought me to finishing the book and having that published and actually incorporating that into the wellness work that I do. It aligned me with a company, a wellness company, that products that significantly changed my life, that are part of what I provide for my clients when they come to me looking to change their wellness journey.
Mm. And what about you, Jeff? How about your retreats?
Oh,
What are
I'm
they
not
like?
doing any retreats yet.
Oh, not retreat. Okay.
No. I see a day where I will do one, but that's not my priority right now. What I'm working on is right now I'm doing one-on-one coaching for divorces or anybody going through a tough time, and it's mostly men. I'm building a community for dads going through a divorce, just providing support, that emotional support for them. Yeah, that's my focus right now.
I mean, you're in another awesome place, Cancun, close to Cancun. I mean, I know you can put together some stuff coming to the Sunshine location. You both in Sunshine location, by the way.
Hey, come
Like a
on down.
getaway,
I'll
but
show
I
you a good
understand.
time. I know the good restaurants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I know the good places to go diving.
Oh man.
Yeah. I'll be sure to let you know when the retreats start happening.
Please do.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I'll hook
Lani,
you up down here.
you're working with individuals one-on-one as well, or it's more
Uh,
of group work?
it does all of that. I like working with individuals one-on-one, helping them sort of create a new wellness path, with some of the resources and tools that I've put together. but also doing groups. So like I said, with the caregivers, we do group retreats with them. We also just did a day camp, which was the first one we ever did, and we weren't sure how it was going to go. Thankfully, the weather turned out to be a perfect day, Hawaii weather. Just a little, clouds in the sky, so it wasn't blazing hot sun. We were at a beautiful park with beautiful big trees, so there was some shade and some cool breeze. And it was just a really nice way for caregivers to come and take a breath. And the organization is called Give Me a Break for that very reason. That's what we hope to provide caregivers, is a break. So physically, emotionally, we do support sessions online. So yeah, whoever is looking for a new wellness path, new wellness journey, I have several different workshop options to offer. And like I said, the wellness products that I also recommend.
Maybe that's a good moment to tell us where can people find you, since we are talking about this.
Awesome. So my website is Alaka'i Associates, and that's Alakai Associates.com. Alaka'i is the Hawaiian word for guide. So I'm here to guide people on that wellness journey. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, both as Lani Almanza and Alaka'i Associates. LinkedIn is Lani Almanza, and on Instagram, it's Honu Mom, 1_ and HONUMOM. Honu is the Hawaiian word for green sea turtle, and that's a very significant spirit animal for our family.
Beautiful, thank you. How about you, Jeff? Do you want to share with our listeners where they can find you before they tune out?
Sure. You can find out most about me on divorce-daddy.com. And if you want to find me on Facebook, Divorce is War, men's support group.
Divorce daddy, I like that.
Divorce daddy's an energy, and I think we need more of it. So the mission behind what I'm doing is, I was this punching bag of a boy before my divorce. And I think I turned into, something a little stronger than that. And I know other men can do that. And I know that I cheekily call it daddy energy, because I think it's very needed in today's society.
100%. Even in Cancun, I thought only here in the United States.
Yeah, even in Cancun.
Yeah.
Definitely needed in Canada. Canada is pretty bad right now.
Oh.
How is it in Cancun, by the way, if you don't mind sharing? How is living there?
I'm not in Cancun. I'm in Playa del Carmen, which is just 45 minutes south. It's a city of about 300,000 people. It's growing really fast. Very, very hot. Good food, though. I wouldn't say super cheap, but we have a nice condo, and we walk everywhere. People are very friendly, very welcoming. We're 10 minutes, 15-minute walk to 2 different beaches. There's a dog beach, a 15-minute walk this way, and we take the dogs in the morning. But we came here because we just wanted to go somewhere we could work on our stuff and kind of be to ourselves. Like we call it monk mode, where we're just kind of focused inward and working on our things. And that's what we've gotten. And and we're near the jungle as well. We've been into the jungle a few times. That's a lot of fun.
Wow.
Thanks for sharing with us all those details for whoever wants to move in the future to Playa del Carmen.
It's a beautiful town.
Okay,
Asher's daydreaming. He's already on the beach now, having a cocktail.
I was telling Lani earlier that Hawaii is one of my favorite places. I was there for like 6 years, and I loved it. She's over there in the Kaneohe Bay area, close to where I was party over there at the sandbar. If anybody's not in Hawaii listening, I love the sandbar. She was like, I need to get to the sandbar. You need to get to the sandbar, Lani, at least one time.
All right.
I love the sandbar. It was one of my favorite places to go to.
I'll be sure to let you know when I do.
Yeah. Take some pictures like, oh, the sandbar, yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Mm. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up a bit. Our question for you, Jeff, start with you a little bit. What is your biggest takeaway from this conversation?
What is my biggest takeaway? That there are a lot of different challenges that can be solved, maybe not in the same way. That's not quite what I mean, but start looking into things like presence, being in the moment, and get out of your head and get out of your emotions as much as possible. Lani, it sounds like you're doing very similar work to me, and that's really fantastic.
Yeah. My takeaway is really, like Jeff said, finding the ways that bring you into presence, because that's one of the first steps to self-care. And I think just having this conversation and connecting with people around the world is that we all share a similar journey. It may not always look similar, but at the human emotional level, we all are facing some of the same challenges, and that we share similar ways of facing those challenges. And sometimes they might not look the same, but having conversations like this can show us how much we overlap.
Well, thank you both for sharing. And my final question for both of you is, I'm start with you, Lani. What is that one thing or two thing when people do it drive you crazy?
I think it would be wine.
Mm.
Like for me, that's being a mom. That's like pressing the mom button. Like, don't do that. Don't press that button. You don't want to go there.
Mm. Anything else, Lani?
I know, I think that's the thing that would, anybody that kind of goes down that road, like, oh, you're hitting that reserve nerve. Like so let me show you ways to not be in that space, like ways to not have to whine. There's other ways that you can express your feelings.
What about
How
you,
about
Jeff?
you, Jeff?
Lani, one of my mentors used to say, whining kills, and I like that. My two things are, and they're kind of along that same line, don't have a pity party and don't be a victim.
Yeah.
Even if you fail at it, just try to do something. Don't just sit back and give up. Don't be a victim. Doesn't matter what it is. You don't be a victim of it. Get out of that victim mindset and be proactive.
Yeah. And I just brought something to mind because I encounter this a lot, that sometimes people use the word survivor to keep them in that victim mentality. So be careful of where you are with that.
I like that.
That's a good one. Yeah. Never thought about that, but that's a good one. Well, Asher, you always ask me what's my takeaway, and you didn't ask me this time, and it was ready this time.
Go ahead, Lani. What is your takeaway?
Well, I will say it because it's an important one. Today, I thank you both for reminding me that all emotions are good, and there are no bad emotions, because sometimes we forget, right? No matter how much of a personal growth we already had along the way, it happens to me. I beat myself up sometimes because I'm angry. I overreacted, right? So yeah, no emotion is bad. We just have to acknowledge it and deal with it really fast, not suppress it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for having me.
Yes. And with that, my friend, you're tuning to Pandora's Awareness Podcast. a place we collect stories and circulating life-changing wisdom. And today was theme around needs, what you need to think, do, or feel. And we processed a lot of feelings today from hearing about Lani's journey and story, she specializes in, Jeff expertise, who he's been a hero to. I think you've been a hero to a lot of men that are going through divorce. So keep helping them save themselves, brother, because we all need it sometimes. We need that friend, that person to talk to help us see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And with that, folks, make it an awesome day.
Awesome. Aloha.